This is the Television Enthusiast Podcast, The Weekly Set.
Episode 27, recorded October 1st, 2015.
Hello, and welcome to the TV Enthusiast Podcast, The Weekly Set. This is episode 27. I am your host, Tyson. Joining me today, as always, are Kat.
Hi.
And Will.
Hello.
So today we're going to go over a little bit of news that's been kicking up. We're also going to talk about what we've been watching, and then kind of at the end we'll just do what we always do, just go over what's coming up in the next week. So let's start with some news. So first up on our list here, we got a Doctor Who spinoff. Now, we've had these before. Did you watch the Sarah Jane, was it Chronicles or Adventures back in the day?
Chronicles. Sarah Jane Adventures, yeah. I never watched either that or Torchwood, no.
Yeah, I like Torchwood a lot. That kind of separated itself a lot from Doctor Who pretty quickly. But I think it needed to, you know. The Sarah Jane one was pretty, kid oriented. It's like Goosebumps age range or something, which, Doctor Who already is kind of family, but it was a bit too far talking down to the kiddies,
Sure.
Didn't really do much for me. This one's going to follow kids in a high school dealing with all this stuff. This is Clara's high school, isn't it?
Yes, which I kind of wish they hadn't revealed that because it makes it sound like, I feel like that's already kind of vaguely spoilerish in regards to what happens to Clara because we probably won't see Clara there.
What's the connection to Doctor Who besides that it takes place in a high school in the same universe?
I guess it's Clara's high school. It's a high school that Clara teaches at.
Okay.
So that's probably the connection right there. It's probably going to have, different kind of alien things, but they're going to do it from some kind of a teenage perspective. I don't know. It's like, I think Torchwood was really good. I think it had some really, really strong seasons. And, like the last season was kind of weak, but, the other seasons were pretty strong. The other kind of spin-off stuff they've done for Doctor Who is kind of always geared much younger. Like Torchwood geared older, and the other stuff geared much younger. I don't know what this is going to be. It's high school, so it's a little bit older than the Sarah Jane Adventures, where the main characters were mostly like early middle school age, I guess.
Apparently they got a young adult author writing this. They're aiming it at teens. They referenced the Hunger Games and whatever in the press release. And it's like, so obviously they're aiming this squarely at that teen, young adult audience. They want some of that.
It could be good, Who knows? I don't have high expectations. The second I see like young adult, and then I see high school, and then I see Doctor Who spinoff, I automatically start thinking of the Sarah Jane Adventures, and I'm like, it's not that that was horrible. It's not,
The premise sounds like premise sounds kind of like Persona with aliens.
Well, let's see what they do with it. That'll be something to kind of keep track of, I guess. In more new show news, Kingkiller Chronicles, written by Patrick Rothfuss, has just been, the rights have just been gathered by Lionsgate, and they say they want to do a film or films, a TV show, and a video game, I guess. Like they're just kind of running the gamut.
They want to go full multimedia with this thing.
So I know I've read the books. Kat, you've read like the first book and a half, and Will, you haven't read it. Have you ever heard of the book series or?
I've heard of it in passing. I never actually knew what it was about or anything about it.
So it's kind of, I don't know, a lot of it takes place at kind of like a magic school kind of thing. So I guess it kind of has like maybe a little bit of a Harry Potter vibe, but it's really not like that at all. It's I think the best way that, the thing I really liked about the series is that it's, there's like stories within stories within stories. So like you'll like the whole story is basically being told from the perspective of a story. And then within that story there's people telling stories, and within those stories there's people telling stories. And then you start getting like stories of things that you actually saw happen, but you're hearing a story from a different perspective of it. And I think that's what's kind of interesting about the series for me.
Inception. Yeah.
It's just like, you know, it makes the world feel like a living, breathing thing, that people are telling stories and passing stories around, and things are kind of being distorted by stories. And maybe you'll hear a story and think like, oh, that's relevant, but there'll be parts of it that are relevant, and then you'll hear another telling of the story that's more relevant, or you know what I mean? That's, I think, kind of what I like about it the most.
I get that's a big part of the series. That's one of the reasons why I really lost interest in it, aside from the 60 pages of having sex with a Felurian in the second book. Was like, I really want an interesting central narrative, and those books really aren't interested in anything remotely to do with that. Like, there's the whole story of trying to find the Chandrian because they killed his parents, which every time he goes back to it tends to be really interesting, but he hardly spends any time on it. And it's like, and there he's off with a band of mercenaries, and then they got distracted trying to save these people, and then he chased the fairy into the other world and had sex for 60 pages. And it's like, I'm like, I want it to all be about something, and it isn't. And so it's just, like, I could have skimmed past just the sex with the Felurian part and gone ahead if I had still cared, but I just didn't care anymore. There's,
like, I think one part in that whole section that's kind of more relevant, and that's, like, in the whole Felurian part. I guess there's two parts, but one's right at the very beginning, and that's where you kind of get, like, the idea of the name of the wind and how he's using that, but then later on there's something else, but it's right towards the end. So yeah, there's literally a huge chunk of just kind of meandering in the idea of, he's learning to have sex with a ancient, like, forest nymph, or, you know.
So as I was saying, well, actually no, this makes me cautiously optimistic, is now that they're picking up Kingkiller Chronicles, I'd love if someone would start doing stuff like Wheel of Time and Mistborn. I think those would be my next two picks.
See, they just need to, like, every, like, major premium channel needs their own Game of Thrones, basically.
Well, they're certainly trying.
Kingkiller, they can, they'll put that over on, like, Stars or something, and then they can, maybe Showtime will pick up Wheel of Time, because they got the time connection.
Right.
The Wheel of Showtime, and then, there's lots of ways I can do that, and then, you're gonna have to get, of course, Netflix and Amazon involved in this too, so lots of opportunities for fantasy series.
I like the idea because I think it's a fun idea to adapt fantasy into television rather than film. So I'm all for it. Bring it on. Let's do this more. I think it'll be
good. Right. Let's get a Witcher TV series.
The games aren't enough for you.
The games aren't enough for me.
But yeah, Kingkiller Chronicles, it's a good series. I really like it. I agree with Kat about how it can meander on certain topics for too long, but I really do enjoy it, and when it does kind of stick more to the stronger narrative things, it's really compelling. I think it might work better as a show, honestly, the way they can do it. I think the main thing I'd be worried about is, the main character throughout a lot of the story is very young. And that plays a big part into the story, is that he is very young, and he's, like, surprisingly skilled and knowledgeable for how young he is. And if they kind of adjust that, if they do the kind of Game of Thrones thing and age him up a bit, you're going to lose a lot of that perspective of the fact that him being young is such a big deal. And if you don't, age him, then you're going to end up dealing with the same problem that, like, Lost had with Walt, where he's growing up really fast, because it's right in that age range,
Oh, yeah. Or like the Harry Potter movies had with Daniel Radcliffe.
So that's going to be a tricky one for them to handle. I'm interested in seeing what they'll do, though. I'm a little nervous with the whole, like, cross-media synergy approach they've kind of taken right from the beginning. Makes me a little nervous, but yeah. We'll see. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, we'll see what happens with that. You know, I'm always skeptical when they come out and they say they got the rights to this thing and they want to turn it into everything imaginable. They want to put on lunchboxes, and it's like
it's a brand of toasters.
And you're sitting there wondering, do these people actually care about this material, or are they just seeing dollar signs? And
I just can't wait to buy a Name of the Windbreaker.
It's like it makes you skeptical of the end product, really, because it's not like when HBO got Game of Thrones, HBO was like sitting there going, "This is going to be toasters, this is going to be a video game, this is going to be beach towels." No, they just made a show, and they made it like, you know, as good as they possibly could, and they focused on just making a good television show. And so it kind of makes me wonder, is their focus here on that? It doesn't seem like it.
Yeah. Well, we'll have to see. I mean, this is the marketing side right now. Once you put a showrunner in charge, that showrunner, it's going to be kind of their sole responsibility. And if they get a good showrunner, then it kind of doesn't matter their original intention. I mean, I think a perfect example of that would be like Terminator: The Sarah Connor Chronicles. That was totally made just like, let's make a Terminator TV series. Let's leverage this intellectual property we have in like a new way. And it was a really good show, and it's because they got a really good showrunner involved. Right.
It was a really good show, despite like everything else happening with that franchise.
Yeah.
You know, it seemed like it was good in spite of everything going for it.
So that's the thing. You know, you put the right person in charge, you give them the right amount of leeway, and it could turn out to be a masterpiece. Who knows?
Yeah, that's true.
So, another show that's in negotiations, also kind of with a movie tie, but in a different way, is Watchmen at HBO. Now, of course, you know, Watchmen was made into a movie. Zack Snyder directed it. But before it was going to be made into a movie, Watchmen, alongside Preacher, was one of those properties that were constantly in negotiations at HBO.
Watchmen was one of those, for the longest time, as long as I can remember, it was one of those mythical, you know, said to be unadaptable. It was one of those unadaptable properties.
Along with Game of Thrones?
that was like in development hell at various places for eternity, and was something nobody thought would ever be adapted until Zack Snyder made that movie, which got mixed opinions, of course. I thought it was a good movie. I had read the graphic novel beforehand, and I actually like Zack Snyder's film, what he did with that film. I actually like it. I know a lot of people hate it because it stuck too close to the source material. It didn't take its own risks.
Well, it's kind of a hypocritical response that Watchmen had, because people like say it stuck too close to its roots, and then they complain about the change in the ending.
Yeah, I know.
Which is, I think, the thing that makes the most sense of anything, you know? Yeah. But Watchmen, I like the movie as well, but as somebody who also read the graphic novel before, there was a lot of material that they had to cut down on that would be so much better on a TV show. I mean, like the way they dove into the psychological profile of Rorschach, you know?
Right. Oh, yeah.
You just didn't get that in the movie. I mean, you get a little tiny bit of it, but I mean, there was like a whole chapter of the graphic novel that was basically just like a psych report.
Totally. And going into the movie, you knew it. You knew that a lot of material was going to be excised. Just because they're making a 2-hour movie.
There's just no way, yeah.
That was one of the reasons that it had been said to be unadaptable, because of how much they would have to cut to fit into a 2-hour runtime.
Plus, then there was the whole thing with like the pirate ship story, which was like, it was a whole separate thing, but it also had these kind of like moral through lines that connected.
Oh yeah, it connected
to the main story in like a really clever way in the graphic novel. Yeah, it would work better as a TV series, but not only that, but I think it would work best as a miniseries, like a single season run kind of thing. And I hope they don't try to stretch it beyond that.
You know what? That's true. That is it. As a miniseries, I mean, assuming they're adapting the original material, they're adapting the film or whatever. Yes, it has to be a miniseries. Let's not go beyond that. I hope to God they're not going to try to adapt the new comics that DC made to cash in on it.
I didn't even know about these new comics.
Yeah, they came out.
Or I blocked them from memory.
I didn't read them because it's sacrilege. But no, just no. And if it's about that material, you can forget it. I'm not going to watch it.
Yeah. So let's move on. Another piece of news here. This isn't for a new show, but this is for a show that is returning that we've talked about quite a bit on this podcast, and also when this used to be a roundtable. Twin Peaks. So Twin Peaks currently filming, by the way. They recently just cast Robert Knepper, who I think most people would probably remember from Prison Break. But he was also in Carnival, and he's been in a bunch of stuff. So he's going to be in this upcoming season of iZombie as well. He's an excellent creepy character actor. So Twin Peaks, I guess they said, we need creepy characters. We don't have enough creepy characters in Twin Peaks.
Yeah. Anything that Twin Peaks is lacking, it's creepy characters. Also, I want to point out that, sadly, the log lady has passed away, since we're talking about Twin Peaks. It's going to suck not having the log lady show up in the new season of Twin Peaks.
She's, I believe, 71 years old.
But she wasn't that major of a character.
She wasn't a major character, where she was like...
She was an iconic character,
though. An iconic character. As far as the series goes, she was an iconic character, It's the kind of thing you would expect to show up in a new version of Twin Peaks.
Yeah, it's definitely
that
sad.
Sucks. It's sad. Yeah.
She was definitely. in her early 70s. It's life,
Yeah, it's life. But I thought we'd take a moment to recognize that.
Oh, sure.
We also have another casting thing I just kind of remembered when we were talking about it. I can't remember her last name. Amanda...
Hug and kiss?
No.
I'm sorry, low hanging fruit.
Okay.
Amanda Seyfried.
Okay. Okay.
Big Love, also Mean Girls, and
I would think of her as Lily Kane from Veronica Mars.
Yes, in a very Twin Peaks-esque role, if you think about it. Because it was like a Laura Palmer role.
Is such an obvious, in a good way, obvious descendant of Twin Peaks.
Yeah,
but her character in particular was like the Laura Palmer.
Was the Laura Palmer? Yeah, it's funny. It's funny. I always thought the woman who appeared in like the first episode of Veronica Mars, and was like dead, ended up becoming like a bigger actress than Kristen Bell.
In some ways, because Kristen Bell actually kind of just blew up more recently. So.
Did she? I don't know what she's doing now.
She was in Frozen, so.
Oh yeah, she's in Frozen, but I don't know.
So, she got a lot of attention for that, and but yeah, I mean, Amanda Seyfried, it's kind of cool to see her just because. She was a very Laura Palmer-esque character in Veronica Mars, so to have her in Twin Peaks kind of makes sense. She also seems like she'd fit in with that kind of show.
That kind of thing.
So yeah, that's kind of cool. Moving on from Twin Peaks, our last news story to talk about, Kevin Feige of Marvel has just said that the movies will eventually reference the TV shows. So that's the one weird thing about the interconnected kind of MCU and the way it's all connected. It's always been really cool on the TV show to hear them make reference to Thor and stuff like that, you know. But it always also kind of felt like kind of weird, but it's like everybody was ignoring the TV show stuff, you know.
Yeah, the movies never reference the shows, and the shows are constantly referencing the movies, which makes the shows seem like they're second rate, or they're like not priority for Marvel Studios in a way.
This should give a pretty big, you know, relevance bump to you know, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. or maybe it's going to be the Netflix stuff, you know.
I mean, especially with Inhumans, they're doing an Inhumans film. I mean, that's definitely.
If they don't reference Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. when they do the Inhumans movie, that'd just be kind of weird.
That'd be weird as hell. Yeah.
So we're gonna start getting the same kind of like little sly references we get in the shows about the movies and the movies about the shows.
I hope Daredevil shows up in Infinity War.
They'll just make reference to a blind lawyer.
Yeah.
You know? They'll say like, I got a good lawyer. He's blind, but he's really good.
Especially like also especially with like Spider-Man coming into the MCU. You know, Spider-Man, his area of operation is very close to where Daredevil is. Spider-Man himself has had many encounters with the Kingpin. To the point where
Jessica Jones.
I mean, so I mean, if you're gonna see like a film franchise crossover with like the Netflix series or stuff, and Spider-Man's like the best bet. But that's still even then that's still all dependent on Sony as well. In that case.
Well, let's kind of keep moving. Let's go on to kind of what shows we've been watching and kind of talking about those. So we're still kind of in the midst of the fall season, you know, just jumping in and taking away all of our priorities.
I'm okay with it. I'm so relieved to have the fall season back. It was like having a limb missing.
Yeah, I am going to jump in and watch all these terrible shows.
Hey, there are lots of great ones, too. I mean, I get that completely, but there are lots of great ones, too.
Oh, yeah, there are lots of great ones, too.
Speaking of terrible shows, last week I talked about some of the fall pilots I was watching. I had mentioned I watched Blindspot, Minority Report, and Limitless. And of those three, I said Limitless was the best, but I still had concerns. Nothing's changed there. Same position. Limitless is still the best of the three. But I still do have concerns. But they're handling the humor well. They're handling the pacing well. So it's really watchable despite my concerns. Blindspot continues to kind of struggle. It's a little bit of a fall off, I think, after the first episode. Not as good, and that even still was kind of, you know, a little questionable territory. Jamie Alexander still doing really well. I don't know. I honestly don't know what's going to go with that. Minority Report, I think I'm done with Minority Report. I tried. It didn't.
I tried to do it. Let's go.
This very clearly now, this was like, you know, there's somebody at Fox that desperately wants this futuristic buddy cop show, and they're pushing any show they can get it, and they're ruining them all. So we'll have to see what's next. Apparently, it's not doing too well in the ratings, so yeah, I doubt this is going to get a back 9.
You don't know what's next? A revival of Alien Nation.
Yeah.
That's what Fox is going to do.
Yeah. Team up the alien with a hot female cop, and
exactly.
Well, they want their chemistry.
And then there will be unresolved sexual tension, because Bones and Cass are getting kind of old and have to end sooner rather than later. And then we're going to need another unresolved sexual tension show on the air.
Yeah, unresolved sexual tension.
Didn't they have a baby together on Bones?
Yeah.
Two babies on
So isn't that kind of resolved sexual tension at that point?
I don't know. Yeah, I mean, you would think Bones you would think Bones would end once sexual tension is resolved, but they're still going on.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know what's happening with that show because I dropped out of Bones after they introduced this ridiculous hacker guy that was not so much a hacker, but like a magician who could use magic to get away with everything on the show for like 2 seasons or so. And I'm like, and they kept saying, "Oh, he's hacking." And it's like, no.
Well, they needed a connection for Sleepy Hollow, so for the Sleepy Hollow crossover.
That's right.
They're like, "Oh, this guy's a hacker." I'm like, "No, nothing he's doing is hacking. This is impossible."
If you want the opposite of that, watch Mr. Robot, where hacking is actually good and makes sense.
This guy coded a computer virus into a human bone, and so.
That's almost as ridiculous as the computer they use at the laboratory to make holographic displays.
A computer virus into a human bone? Wow.
Yes.
That's a lot of ones and zeros etched in there.
I'm like, what? When they explain that, and I'm like, this is the stupidest thing ever. I think I'm going to stop watching Bones.
So let's get off of some of the bad TV from fall, and let's talk about Doctor Who. Now, we're not going to talk about kind of the current stuff. We talked a little bit about that last week. We'll talk about it some more later. We're just going to give it a little breathing room so we have more to talk about. But for now, we have a surprise. It looks like Will's finally started to watch the Doctor.
What?
Did you watch one episode, or how much did you watch?
Just one episode.
Just one episode, but you watched the first episode of season A, the Capaldi episode.
Yes, the one where Capaldi first becomes the Doctor.
And for anybody else that is thinking about getting into Doctor Who but is intimidated by everything, that's kind of the way to do it with Doctor Who. Just find a point in which a new Doctor has come in and just start there. Capaldi's the most recent, so start on season 8. It's fine. There's going to be things that you're not going to get, little references you're not going to get. You can always go back and watch more once you're into the show. But you don't really, it's the kind of the more emotional connections are made with the specific people playing the specific role. So the specific Doctor of that time, all of his emotional connections are made from the point that he's introduced on. So, yeah, it's a good time to kind of tune in. So what did you think, Will, of Doctor Who?
So at first I was confused because we're in Victorian London and there's a woman who is a lizard woman and nobody seems fazed by this whatsoever.
Just go with it. Just go with it.
Yeah.
Come on, this is an episode where a giant dinosaur.
There's a giant dinosaur.
You're in London. You're worried about the lizard lady?
No,
that burst into flames. Yeah.
I'm not worried about the lizard lady so much as I was confused as to why like everybody saw it like as being normal. And I'm not talking like
because she wears the veil.
Okay, right. But anyway, so the giant dinosaur in Victorian London was a cool idea. I'm always up for that. That is awesome. And then it spits out the Doctor. And I'm like, that is cool. I'm like, that's awesome. And also explained how the dinosaur got there, too. So that answered that question. And I was like, yes. All right. And he comes out. And the Doctor is very, very confused person right off the bat. And then it gets into like these robots, and there's a lot of emotional moments with Peter Capaldi as he is coming into this realization that he's the Doctor. I guess because he's an older person, they make references to that. You know, that he is an older person.
Because he used to be Matt Smith and David Tennant. Both of them were quite a bit younger.
Yeah, we're both of them, and I thought that was
dashing young men.
We're dashing young men.
Matt Smith. Matt Smith was in his 20s, I think.
And there's a scene where like the lizard lady challenges Clara about that because she suggests that Clara is disappointed that the Doctor is so old now and not this handsome young man that she maybe had a crush on, or and Clara denies that she had a thing for the Matt Smith Doctor, even though we get the sense that that's not entirely true. That she most likely did have a thing for Matt Smith.
That's a consistent theme you'll find if you ever go back, especially during the David Tennant era, is kind of questioning the whole falling in love with the Doctor.
Oh, okay.
What Kat's saying is that the Doctor teams up with hot female cops to solve crimes.
Don't insult
and there's unresolved sexual tension.
Cliche terms. So much better than.
No, Doctor Who explores the kind of the thought behind that, whereas like those shows just kind of use it as a tool.
Right.
Yeah, and so Doctor Who constantly makes you feel like, hey, all these companions follow the Doctor. First of all, fall in love with the Doctor first. Are you falling in love with the Doctor, or are you falling in love with what he can show you? And second of all, is it really a good thing to be in love with the Doctor?
Right. And so she brings up, so now the Doctor is an older man, Clara, whom Clara is most likely not going to be physically attracted to. It brings up they bring up that whole issue and, what's going on there, and I thought that was cool. And then, and the actual plot of the episode was this fun thing with robots, and they fight these robots, and I thought that was a lot of fun, especially the scene in the restaurant when they both think that they came up with this puzzle neither of them came up with.
Yeah, he's like, only a narcissistic control freak would do that, and she's like, exactly. What are you talking about? I love that scene. The rapport between them, it is almost instantaneous.
Yeah,
I love that, and I also love the scene where the Doctor is trying to figure out who he is with the bum or whatever, and he's looking at his reflection in the water barrel.
I'm Scottish. I can complain about things now.
I'm Scottish. I can complain about things now. And then at the end, when Clara gets the phone call from Matt Smith, I thought that was very touching. And I didn't watch the previous episodes of Doctor Who, but I feel like if I had, it would have been a nice send-off to Matt Smith's version of the character. I think as a fan, I probably would have appreciated that a lot more, but I thought that was still really cool that they did that. And,
Are you interested enough that you're continuing on?
Yeah, I'm interested enough that I'm continuing on. I had fun with what I saw, getting the initial confusion out of the way. I thought, it's not something that, it's not like deep thoughts. It's supposed to be a fun sci-fi action adventure show.
And I think if you can go into it knowing things about it, like how it can and does change up its format pretty much every week, and the fact also that that the B-movie elements that were present in the classic series still very much exist in the modern series. Because I've talked to some people who I think had a hard time with the B-movie elements.
Right. And the thing I've always heard, it's the excuse I've always heard for the B-movie elements and stuff is that they try to make it friendly for younger viewers. They want an all-inclusive audience for the show.
Oh yeah, it's a family series.
Yeah, so they're not trying. So they try to avoid, making content that's too mature, so that younger viewers wouldn't it would fly over their heads.
So what you're saying is that Nintendo made Doctor Who.
Yeah. Well.
No, if Nintendo made Doctor Who, there would probably be way more mushrooms and disturbing implications about relationships. Have you read some of the breakdown of the relationship between Princess Peach and Bowser?
So let's go on then. It'll be cool to see you talking more about Doctor Who as you watch more. So yeah, check back in occasionally with us and let us know what's going on with your watch on Doctor Who.
Yep, definitely. I'll watch another episode this week, and we'll talk about that next week. And you'll get to experience my journey through time and space with the Doctor.
In the TARDIS.
In the TARDIS.
So, next up we have Quantico. Now, Will did not watch this. Will, I think, loathed the trailer too much to watch this.
I love the trailer. I was hoping to be able. I was just thinking I should probably watch it so that I could talk about it with Kat. Well, what did you think about it, Kat, first?
Of Quantico?
Yes.
I enjoyed it way more than I thought I would.
Okay, see.
Because the trailers have been so ridiculous, and there have been lots of shots of beautiful people getting out of swimming pools in their bathing suits and having sex together, and I'm just like, oh, gosh, you're really trying to oversell that. So I thought it was a little bit more fun in that everyone has secrets.
Okay, so the idea I had, what I want to do, is I want to watch it and absolutely loathe it and hate it, and then I could debate you about it.
So, Quantico, I honestly have to say that it is better than I thought it was going to be. It still has that very networky feeling to it. That's becoming more and more ever present in everything we watch on networks. But I definitely did. I thought like a really cool scene with this Mormon character. Kat will know what I'm talking about. Where they kind of were playing up him being kind of like this good boy and stuff, and then they kind of had this other character that was kind of like flunking out, and he had this kind of tension, and the way it boiled up, it was pretty dramatic, shocking kind of event.
Apparently they nicknamed the guy Romney, and
they do nickname him Romney. And I just wanted to add, because I was raised Mormon, and I know there were it was actually something that's been making people around here kind of nervous. I thought it was a fair depiction. I think it's a tendency sometimes, especially when you're in a smaller religion, to kind of go, oh, any depiction is bad, and I think there's a degree to which that's fair, but I actually thought it was a fair depiction, because I thought the whole point of the episode was everyone has secrets, and he wasn't really any different from anyone else. So I thought it was pretty well handled.
He was like the golden boy character that like didn't think there was any problems, and then not only did he have like a big secret floating in his background, but it was incredibly self-destructive to him.
I like that point, actually. That there was kind of the contrast. That's a good point, that you really can't tell what's going on with people based on their appearance.
What I was going to say is they nickname him Romney, and I kind of hate like these stupid, cute pop culture references they like to put in these shows. Like, it just seems like, I don't know, it just seems so fake. It annoys me when they try to be cute like that.
I could totally see that happening. Yeah. If you're like in a CIA-esque environment and somebody's Mormon, of course they're going to be called Romney.
Romney, yeah.
Especially if they're like tall and handsome, kind of, like, and they fit that kind of mold.
Right.
Of course they're going to be called Romney.
American good boy luck, which I'm sure is what they were casting the actor for. Like, he totally had.
I think the only time I like that was in Scream Queens when they called a girl Deaf Taylor Swift.
Yeah, we'll get to that. We'll get to Scream Queens later. I don't want to start that yet because we have one other show we want to get to before that.
Okay.
Which we'll go on to right now. Once Upon a Time. So I'm just gonna kind of tune out and let you guys talk about this because I haven't watched any more since the last time I talked to you guys.
Okay. So, Kat, what do you think of the new season of Once Upon a Time, the premiere episode?
I really enjoyed it. I know a lot of people I've seen online really groaned at the ending when it's like, oh, like another memory loss.
Yeah,
I
groaned at that
completely understand.
too.
At the same time, I will totally defend it because I think I'm glad they did the time jump because what it means is that we both get to see him as transition into becoming the Dark One, And at the same time, we also get to see Emma being the Dark One, because I don't want to wait to see her being the Dark One.
Right.
I want to see her being the Dark One now. I'm super excited for that. So I overall enjoyed it. I think it set up a good direction for the season.
I totally agree with you. For the first, the entire episode, I was thinking we were going to have like a good half of the season be Emma transitioning into the Dark One, and I kept thinking, oh, it's going to be a while before we see full Dark Emma, and we got that at the end of the episode, and I was super happy to see that at the end of the episode. You're right, because now we're just getting to the good stuff. It's like
it's like they knew, yes, this is the good stuff. We're not gonna hold off on it. We're gonna get to it now. And I just think that the whole idea of Dark Emma going around tormenting all the other cast members sounds like so much fun. I can't even wait.
And I guess it sets up the flashbacks for season 2, because now we get to flashback to the missing time.
Yeah. I'm all for that. I think it will be really interesting to see. And there's even a little bit of a mystery element, learning what exactly went wrong with Emma becoming the Dark One.
With Emma becoming the Dark One, exactly. I thought the entire episode was great. I enjoyed it. Meridia from Brave, she was a really cool character.
Well cast.
Yeah, very well cast. I haven't actually seen Brave, the film, so unlike with last season where I actually made it a point to watch Frozen before I watched the last season of Once Upon a Time, and I'm glad I did. Okay. Yeah, and I'm glad I did, because the first half of that season was very heavy on the Frozen references.
Yeah, really good need to have that backstory going into it. And then it all felt like Frozen fan fiction, which was entertaining.
Yeah, it was like a quasi-sequel to the film. So it's like it was helpful to watch that, but this didn't feel like that. This was obviously they just inserted the character into the series without including the entire universe that character inhabits. The Camelot stuff is going to be interesting. Apparently Merlin is going to show up at one point. There's a heavy emphasis on the Sword and the Stone, which I thought it was cool that the Dark One's dagger is actually the tip of Excalibur.
Yeah, that was a clever twist. Especially since they've been making reference to it, to like Merlin and Camelot for quite a bit over this series, and the Dark One and the dagger has been one of the most consistent premises. So I like that's a fun way of tying it all in together.
It is. That caught me off guard in like a very pleasant way.
Yeah. I also really liked having Robert Carlyle Rumpelstiltskin be kind of the devil on Emma's shoulder. I think that's a really cool idea, and I hope they continue to use that in the flashback.
Yeah, because with Robert Carlyle's character being in a coma, apparently, for who knows how long.
Yeah.
It's a clever way to keep him and his character involved in the show.
It keeps him around. It means that we'll get to see him show up in the flashbacks, and it will also show us better help us show Emma kind of struggling with trying not to become the Dark One. So I really hope they continue with that.
I really hope they continue with that too. So overall, an excellent start to the new season. I'm super excited to see the next episode.
Completely agree.
Yeah.
Let's move on to Screen Queens then. So, Will, you watched the 2-hour premiere?
Yeah, or I guess an hour and 45 minutes without commercials, whatever.
Yeah. So I watched that as well.
Okay.
What a strange show.
It is a strange.
It is totally all over the place. There are parts. It's weird. It's like there are parts of this that are like Scream. And then there are parts of this that are like Scary Movie.
Yeah, definitely.
And it has that weird tone because it's always kind of on the funny side. It's always kind of parodying, these kind of ridiculous horror trope kind of things, as well as kind of like the whole, frat and, fraternity, sorority kind of dynamic things. So it's really hard parodying all of that throughout the whole thing.
No.
But then every so often it does something that's just so spoofy that it's it even makes the kind of parodying they were doing before seem like it seems oddly out of place. I mean, the first example I can think of where this is clearly on display is there's a murder scene that involves texting.
Yes. Yeah, that gets super. Yeah,
and it's wow, okay, this jumped the shark 40 times
the killer,
in one scene.
The killer texts the girl, and she texts him back, and they text back and forth several times. Then he stabs her.
He's texting that he's gonna stab her, and she's texting back, no.
Yeah. And then he stabs her in the throat, and you think it's over, but then she gets up. She kicks him, and she goes to her computer, and she
logs into Twitter, I think it is.
It's either Twitter or Facebook. I thought it was Facebook or whatever. But but she's sending a message, help, I'm being attacked. But
I'm being murdered by the.
I'm being murdered, but she writes the longest message ever, she's writing the great American novel.
It's so ridiculous.
And then
it's hilarious too, but
she finally gets to the end of it, and before she hits send, the killer stabs her in the back, and you think that's it, and then a minute later she jumps up and hits send, and then she dies. But that
she just kind of gets up real quick, hits send, and then collapses. It was what? Okay.
What? Okay. Yeah, it was full. Yeah, it's so much parody going on in this. Emma Roberts is turbo bitch, think of the meanest, most vapid female you've ever seen, and then times that by 10.
Yeah.
You get Emma Roberts' character in this.
Yeah, pretty much. She's just completely it's crazy. She's just horrible. And she's great at it too, which is
yeah, she's great at it. Yeah, all the actors in this are fantastic.
The motivations for some of the characters don't make any sense. And like I said, it's totally all over the place because it'll do something that's so spoofy and then return to a more balanced kind of area. And then it goes spoofy again. So it's really weird tonally. I don't know if I've ever seen a show that just jumps all over the place tonally this much. I mean, there's parts that are straight up Wet Hot American Summer, they're just completely ridiculous and just make no sense at all.
It just, it just goes completely ridiculous. And then there are other parts that are it more playing it straight.
Did you watch the most recent episode?
I did not. I only watched the premiere, which I actually just finished before this podcast.
Well, watch the more recent episode because it's called Chainsaw. It's the name of it's technically the third episode because the pilot is just 2 episodes.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, the pilot's 2 episodes. So, okay, yeah, I'll watch the most recent episode. As far as the
Chainsaw has a hilarious scene involving a frat and the Backstreet Boys, and it's hilarious. I was laughing through the whole thing, and it's another one of those moments that really pushes that boundary of spoof, and it's okay, this is so spoofy at this point. It's ridiculous.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I think this is probably the most fun of the new shows it's on.
This was very fun. I enjoyed it. I actually really enjoyed this show, and I'm looking forward to the next episode because it's such a fun show. It doesn't take itself at all seriously whatsoever at any moment, and none of the characters, it's. Yeah, I really enjoyed it.
So then, let's move on. Let's talk about something that all 3 of us were really looking forward to. Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. This will be the last of the shows we're discussing. So the last part of our segment here. Saved it for last because I know this is the one we all kind of want to talk about. So initial thoughts. Kat, you want to kick us off?
I thought it was a solid premiere. In terms of just getting us going, I thought it was really well balanced. I was okay with the fact
right into the whole
May
fish
and
oil
Ward
thing.
didn't show up because you could feel them going, oh, and here's what this character is up to, and now this is where this character is, and kind of just like setting us in place as to where they are in regards to last season and where they're going from this point on. So I thought it was solid. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I think them avoiding that actually helped because it just made it more focused on what was really moving on with the plot. And
Right.
they can bring those elements in later, and they will. I mean, in the preview for the next season, you see kind of both of them, so it's like it's coming. It's just that they're kind of focusing more on where the story's going, and it's really like I've heard other people say this, and I completely agree. This is a very different show than when the show started. At this point, this is straight comic book.
Yeah, which I'm glad, because I'm glad it's straight comic book now.
It's been way better for this series.
It needed to be straight comic book from the beginning, but it's okay because it's there now.
They addressed the whole fish oil thing like immediately, right at the beginning.
Yeah, right at the beginning.
That whole opening sequence had been released before on YouTube. They put up that whole sequence, so I'd seen it before. Very good opening sequence where you have this guy kind of like no idea what's going on. The way they did the evac on him, it was really cool. It was very Avengers-esque.
I enjoyed the fact that the bad guys this episode turned out may not be the bad guys after all. Like that little twist. It's like, because it's such a cliche, government agency, task force, or whatever is bad. We get it, but like, so they set it up like that, and then they had that twist at the end with maybe these aren't the bad guys, and then you got this other guy who is actually a bad guy and a really bad guy. So I thought
a really intimidating presence too, just huge.
Oh yeah,
monstrous figure.
Monstrous figure. Apparently he's a character in the Inhumans comic books, newly introduced villain in the Marvel comic books. That obviously, very strong ties to the Inhumans.
We've talked about them before when they referenced that they had cast this guy. That there's going to be this character that's kind of judging the other Inhumans or something, or he thinks of himself as judge, jury, and executioner or whatever.
Right.
We referenced him kind of briefly before.
Apparently his deal is he judges newly created Inhumans and determines whether they are worthy to live or not.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so he's kind of
part of a group working with like other Inhumans.
No, this is his prerogative.
I think he works alone, at least in the comics.
I know in the comics he forms a team, but he's at the head of it. He forms it. So he's not like the enforcer of some agency. He's like basically making his own choices. Like he basically thinks he's the moral judge or whatever, of what's going on. Yeah, so it's going to be interesting to see how he plays into that, because he does kind of start forming a team of his own.
How he came to the conclusion that he was the one who judges all Inhumans, I don't know.
Yeah. We'll have to see what happens with that, like how they develop his character. Because right now, he's kind of like, he's one of those constant characters, like a Joker, in the sense that there's no depth to him. He's just straight up, monster, right now. And I think they're going to expand upon that, and it's not going to be just that. But right now, he's very non-complex character.
So it seems like the presence of this new villain is going to force Coulson and this new government agency that are at odds at the moment to kind of come together and deal with this. And I think that's going to be interesting to see how that happens and how that works and that dynamic. So already they got like some interesting stuff happen that's gonna make for a fun season, I think.
Yeah.
You know what I'm most
if they're setting things in place for Civil War, just because Civil War is right around the corner here, and there's no way that S.H.I.E.L.D. can't acknowledge that. So, like, kind of like the Shield versus New Shield last season, like, are they going to try to use it as a... Because at some point I feel like these two groups are going to get...
You're right. I feel like having, like, the president up there announcing he's creating a task force or something, I was thinking that is a direct tie-in to Civil War.
When does Civil War come out? When does the movie come out?
I think April. It's either April or beginning of May next year.
That's going to be towards the end of its second half.
Yeah.
So I imagine we're not even going to get much reference, maybe some little tiny hints all the way through, and then maybe we'll get like our first hint at it right at the very end of the first half of the season.
I think the President's Task Force, I think that was the first hint at it already. I mean, they don't have to do much with that.
And that was the president from Iron Man 3, too, so...
Yeah.
And which was a nice touch. I like that.
Well, yeah. I know, yeah. It would have been really world-breaking if they had a different president on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. It would have been like, guys, you totally dropped the ball on this connected universe thing. Yeah.
So, I gotta tell you, my favorite part of this episode is the same thing that was my biggest concern going into this season. And I voiced this before that, like, with Simmons, that I was worried that they were going to go this kind of like Dark Phoenix-esque route with her character because she was absorbed. I was so like, oh god, it feels like they're going to go in that direction. I don't want it to go. So happy I'm wrong that that's not where they were going. So happy that we got this cut to her and she's in some other world. It looked kind of like something out of Thor Dark World, you know?
And I'm glad they didn't drag it out. I was afraid it would be like, and 3 or 4 episodes later, they finally reveal what's up. Nope, we already know. Simmons is on another world, and that thing was a portal of some kind.
Fitz's breakdown at the end of that episode, that was so heartbreaking and great. You've never seen Fitz like that before.
Probably the strongest performance we've seen on the show, period, so far.
Yeah, so far. That was just a great performance, and I thought that brought, it brought that character to a place that he's never been. And I thought that was a great scene.
I think that's great. I kind of hope they give something similar to Simmons, because he kind of got that last season in their plot line since they're inextricably tied together, and I think Simmons deserves her due.
I think so, definitely.
Well, I think we're probably going to get, I'm hoping we get like kind of almost like a whole episode focused on Simmons.
Oh, that would be great.
It would be really cool to kind of get something that kind of explores like what happened to her, that kind of maybe goes back and explores what happened to her immediately when it happened, how she eventually gets out of it, all that kind of stuff. I really want to see that journey, and it would be great if she is kind of changed by the time she comes out. I mean, we saw Skye come in as a hacker and then ended up as a badass and then ended up as a superhero throughout the series. It'd be cool.
Skye is the married
soon. Very capable. Yeah. Or maybe she'll come out crazy. Maybe she'll come out like Fred on Angel. Having kind of come out of the situation kind of frazzled and a little crazy.
Hopefully with a less tragic end than Fred would end up with.
Oh, yeah, right, yeah. Less tragic ending than what happened to Fred.
Yeah.
And in regards to the promo, because May is my favorite character, I saw someone put up a screenshot from the promo of May, like, slamming Hunter up against the wall with what looks like a knife to his throat. And the person said next to it, "Welcome back, Melinda." And I was like, exactly.
Exactly. Welcome back, Melinda.
I'm looking forward to seeing her.
I'm wondering what the her story is, because Coulson said she took a vacation that she never returned from. And I'm like, so...
Yeah.
It's going to be interesting to see what was going on with her character during the break. Definitely a good start to a hopefully good and interesting season of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yeah, definitely. I think this is stronger than the season 2 premiere. definitely stronger than the season 1 premiere.
Yeah, totally.
No flying cars in this episode.
Yeah, they've kind of toned down the campy elements, which I'm happy with. The show had way too many one-liners. Look at how cute we are, I think, in the first season. And I feel like now they really they've hit their groove. They have their sense of purpose. They know where they want to go and how to get there. And this premiere gives me full confidence that it's going to be a great season.
Right.
Much better show now than it was when it started, definitely. It's gone through a journey. It's improved drastically.
The only problem the show has is still they still overinflate Skye's importance or something. That she's still like the Mary Sue of the show, and you saw that at the beginning of like the episode when the first hint of S.H.I.E.L.D. comes with like she's the first person we see saving the day, and I thought I was like, all right.
Well, it kind of makes sense because you get like an off-screen shot of basically her powers. Is the first thing you see.
It was a cool shot.
Yeah, so it makes sense because it gets you like, because that's the only character that you can really have from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. where you can have something like that, where you get like this hint of who it is without actually seeing the person, and she's the only one that you can really do that with right now. So I like the way of introducing S.H.I.E.L.D. coming into the picture with that her using her powers like that. So that was cool. I'm interested in this character that they brought in with, that they have there now, and kind of his struggles and not wanting to be there and having to kind of accept that.
They're like, oh, you have powers now, and we're gonna have to pretty much hold on to you forever.
I'm a little annoyed by Lincoln's angstiness.
Yeah, I am. Lincoln, just accept what you are. Jesus, get over it.
Yeah. So that's a little bit annoying, but it was cool. It was really cool, that shot of Skye and our Daisy and Lincoln using their powers on the one big monstrous guy. That was very comic book.
Yeah, that was definitely very comic. That was like the most comic book fight that has happened in S.H.I.E.L.D. so far.
Every time, I can't help it. Whenever, even though I enjoyed this premiere, when Lincoln and Skye or Daisy or whatever whipped out their powers to shoot and slash, I just couldn't help thinking, yep, Inhumans are totally the mutants of the Marvel Universe. This is how Marvel is coping without mutants. I can't help it. That's where my mind goes.
Oh yeah. This is how Marvel Studios is dealing with not having the X-Men license. Because if this was X-Men, Skye would be Banshee.
Jubilee maybe, or
Skye would be Jubilee, and
Yeah, Skye would totally be Jubilee for sure.
And then even the villain guy that we got, the monster, he's kind of like a unsympathetic Magneto. Kind of coming in and making decisions for everybody else, and being just way more powerful than a lot of the other people there. Yeah.
I'm wondering how far they can go with this Inhumans plot, though, with the film coming out, in 2018 or something, and them, you gotta imagine you gotta be thinking they gotta be holding so much of that stuff back for just the film.
Yeah.
Unless they're going to have like Black Bolt or something show up in S.H.I.E.L.D. before he shows up in his own movie, which I don't see them doing. But
I think there's a lot of room there. I think what we're going to be seeing with the Inhumans is probably mostly going to be kind of B-tier Inhumans on S.H.I.E.L.D., and we're going to get to kind of like the larger picture with the movie.
Right, definitely.
So it would be kind of like as if we got a movie first or a TV show first of like X-Force, and then we got the X-Men movie.
Right.
That's the way I kind of see it. Let's move on. This is the end of our second segment of the show. We're talking about what we've been watching. Real quickly, we're just going to run through what's coming up in the next week, and there's definitely some cool stuff coming up. Fall continues. So on Sunday, October 4th, The Affair and Homeland are coming back to Showtime, and The Leftovers is coming back to HBO. Now, out of those, I'm kind of excited about The Leftovers. The Affair is a really good show, but it's I don't know if it's something I'd say I'm excited about. It's something I just I enjoy when I watch it. That's not a slam against it at all. It's a very good show. It's just that it's not really exciting material. It's a deep drama about the conflicts that arise from an affair. It's not like, oh, I can't wait. I can't wait to witness this human suffering. But yeah, I mean, those are good shows. That's a typical big pay channel Sunday night lineup coming. That's when it's starting. That's also going to be, by the way, the last episode of Fear the Walking Dead.
Okay.
The season finale for it. It's a short season.
Wow. And I didn't watch a single episode.
Me neither.
Yeah, and then I think we're getting Walking Dead pretty quickly. I think we're getting that. I don't think we're getting it next week. Maybe we are. I'm not sure.
It's gotta be sometime this month. Walking Dead always premieres in time for Halloween.
Yeah,
So.
it always premieres in October, so it'll be either the next week or the week after. It might be the next week. I'm not sure, but Tuesday, October 6th, 2015. CW. We're starting to get our CW shows back. We're getting The Flash and iZombie back.
The Flash. All super excited for The Flash.
Also, right before these come up, the seasons are going to be showing up on Netflix. So The Flash and iZombie are both going to be on Netflix in time for this, but just barely.
yeah, just giving nobody any time to catch up. Thank you. CW on Netflix. But it's super excited for The Flash because I love what I love from a conceptual standpoint the stuff that they're going to be doing with this new season.
Multi-universes and yeah,
the multi-universes and stuff like that. I think it's going to be awesome. I can't wait to see that. For sure.
I'm psyched up for iZombie, and I think the thing that I'm most excited about is that they haven't really shown anything for season 2. So it's like there's no oh, this is teased and I'm drawing a picture. It's like, no, I'm going in only knowing what happened at the end of the first season.
Robert Knepler.
Nothing's been shown. There's been no commercials. You know what I mean? So there's so much going in oh, I don't know what's going to happen, and that's kind of exciting sometimes too. It also shows they're not really necessarily marketing the show that well. But as somebody who's already watching it, it's something that's working out well for me.
Nice, yeah. Definitely, I still have to finish the first season actually.
It's going to be on Netflix soon, so yeah.
Yeah.
Wednesday, October 7th, 2015, 2 more CW shows, Arrow and Supernatural. So yeah.
Oh,
Yes.
Supernatural, okay.
I'm really excited about both of them. So yeah. I'm always excited for Supernatural.
I gotta catch up on Supernatural, although I guess that's not super important now because
this season's all about a thing called love.
Oh really?
Yeah, because of the darkness,
Oh, the dark. You're right.
There are so many shows I feel like I could apply to right now.
No, it's because the main villain of Supernatural is called the Darkness of this new season.
Yeah.
So I was just making a joke about that band, the Darkness.
The Darkness. Yeah. Oh my God, I totally forgotten about that. And
and now it'll be stuck in your head.
That's the worst thing you can do to anybody.
Arrow, I think, across the board for the three of us is probably the one that we're most excited about that day. Yay, more Olicity.
No.
I know nothing about Arrow. I am going into this. I have avoided every single promo pictures, any headline. I've avoided anything. I'm going into this new season completely blind, and I'm happier for it.
I'm the opposite. I've seen everything for it. Promo wasn't that great.
Don't tell me. I don't want to hear anything.
No, I mean, it wasn't a good promo. It's not necessarily that it doesn't look like it's going to be good. It was just a kind of a one of the worst promos I've seen CW cut, and just as far as the actual creation of the promo.
It did not get me excited for a new season at all. It's like,
yeah, it was just a poorly put together promo.
So, but yeah,
it was like a last minute cut together thing. It
was like a bunch of random shots of the new season thrown together with like no context, and not in a way that gets you excited. Not like, here's all this cool shit. It's just, here's random stuff. You know,
it was kind of boring. So yeah. I'm hopeful. I'm optimistic. Season 3 kind of burned me, so I'm really hoping.
Yeah, I'm hoping they've learned lessons from season 3, picked up and said, okay, how can we make season 4 better?
Yeah, definitely. So, but there's lots of opportunities, so we'll have to see where it goes with that. So it'll be kind of cool.
The first thing they could start is dropping Olicity, just making that a thing.
I don't know if they are.
Just have the beginning of the first episode be Oliver and Felicity saying, I think we should be friends, and then being cool with that and no drama.
I think you're expecting a little too much.
And then they never bring it up again.
They never bring it up again.
Okay, so also that same day, American Horror Story Hotel. I don't think any of us are really all that interested in American Horror Story Hotel.
I don't know.
I watched the first 3 seasons completely American Horror Story. I liked the first and the third. I watched some of the 4th season.
I don't know.
I think it mostly sucked. So going into this is like the first season where I don't even think I'm going to start it. Like, unless I hear really good things about this, I'm just going to avoid it completely.
I don't know.
I also don't like how much focus they're putting on Lady Gaga.
Lady Gaga as a vampire sounds interesting, but
I mean, it's how much focus they're putting on, and we got Gaga. It's like they're putting Gaga larger than
they keep that's what's turning me off of it, is they keep just saying we got Lady Gaga on the show. It's like,
which seems to be like a big part of what was the problem with the last season, was they were putting on all these musical numbers, and it was like they were trying to be too showy, and it's like it just ruined it. And I feel that from what I'm seeing from the promos for the new season. So I don't know. I'm not gonna watch it day one. If I hear like people going like, "Oh my God, it's back on track," or "It's amazing," then I'll check it out. But for right now, I'm steering away for the first time, because I tuned in at the beginning on every season. But last season left me cold. That same night also, we have one of the first like big Hulu originals, which is a show called Casual, which is about a bachelor brother and his newly divorced sister. They move in together and they're trying to help each other out with their stuff, I guess.
Okay.
I guess it's from Jason Reitman is involved in this. So.
That's probably going to be a funny show. Sure.
It has that kind of FX comedy look to it. Like You're the Worst or Married, like if you've seen those shows, it kind of has that look or feeling to it. Jason Reitman, of course, he directed Juno.
I don't know if I kind of like those sort of FX style, like cynical comedies. Like FX has been going in hard with these like sort of cynical.
Yeah. Cynical young people comedies.
Yeah, young people comedies, and I don't know if like that's really my thing. So
I'll have to see. I mean, it's Jason Reitman. He did Juno. He's it's Ivan Reitman's son.
Right.
If anybody didn't know that, and so I mean, he's a good director. He's we'll have to see. I just think it's interesting because it's probably the first like really big kind of Hulu show. I mean, they put up the Amy Poehler produced show, Difficult People, that's got a Billy Eisner in it. That's about kind of Billy Eisner playing himself and this other girl that's in it playing herself, and they're like basically like these kind of lesser known versions of themselves struggling in New York and just being very snarky on everyone they meet. But besides that, this is probably, this is Hulu's biggest original so far, and they have a few more coming down the pipe. I mean, the big one coming up is going to be The Way, which has Aaron Paul from Breaking Bad and Hugh Dancy from Hannibal in it. And that's supposed to be kind of about like a Scientology-esque cult kind of thing. So we'll have to see how Hulu develops as an original series producer.
Yeah, definitely. That's going to be interesting to see how that develops.
And then the next day, Thursday, October 8th, we have our first show from Crackle that we're talking about. This is the animated series Super Mansion, which features the voice of Bryan Cranston from Breaking Bad. And it's about a bunch of mostly millennial superheroes living in a big house, and Bryan Cranston's character is like this elderly, retired like superhero, or I really don't know. Bryan Cranston's the reason I'm looking at this at all. But it's also interesting. This is a Crackle show, you know. We're getting all these online people getting into the market.
Yeah, definitely.
So that's it. That takes us through what's coming out next week. So that brings us to an end here. Thank you everybody for listening. That's it for all us. So we'll be back next week. Night.
Night.
Bye.
If you would like to voice your opinion, send an email to theweeklyset@TVEnthusiast.com. TV Enthusiast is a part of the Enthusiast Media Network. Stay tuned to TV Enthusiast and